Pixar just released the first trailer for Elemental, and I'm gonna explain the huge effect this will have on the Pixar universe. I made a video back when this movie was first announced explaining how I thought this would fit into the Pixar theory based on the one picture that was released at the time. But now with this trailer, it gives a much clearer picture of what this movie will be about. This one seems like it would be difficult to figure out how it connects to all the other Pixar movies because this is an entire city filled with elements. It's hard to tell if this is even Earth. So I'll be explaining how I think this will fit into the Pixar theory as of right now. Initially, I had the idea that within each atom of the universe, there's a city of elements that make up that atom, and in this movie, we would just be seeing one of essentially infinite element cities. However, with this trailer, I no longer think that's the case. The element city you would assume has no connection to the Earth we know in the Pixar universe, but I actually believe this is taking place on Earth. There's one major clue to how this fits into the Pixar universe, and that is the clouds on the train. If these look familiar, it's because they are the same clouds from the Pixar short Partly Cloudy. This is a short film that I've been trying to fit into the Pixar timeline for a while. I essentially placed this in the timeline as a sequence taking place inside of Ellie's head from Up, because she can be seen in the window and she and Carl always wanted to have a baby. And I still think that this short film ties into the story of Up, except I no longer believe this is taking place in her head. The reason I gave that explanation is because the clouds in the Pixar universe have never had faces or been alive, so it doesn't seem like it could fit. Except now it could. As for who this baby is, that could be a theory on its own, so let's establish a time period. I actually believe that Partly Cloudy is taking place before Elemental because Ellie was around this age in the 60s. In Elemental, we can see headphones and advanced trains, so you would assume that it takes place in modern day. However, it's probably taking place in the late 80s to early 90s because in Lightyear we can see a brand of water called Wade water. Since the in-universe movie Lightyear came out in 1995 as stated in the opening of the movie, that means that the filmmakers knew of the character Wade from Elemental. So here's my theory. Magic is a concept in the Pixar universe that's very mysterious and also very important. And I believe that these living elements are a result of magic. Magic is most prominent in Brave and Onward, however there are two other Pixar movies that involve magic, and those are the Incredibles movies. The Supers' powers are a result of magic, but it's unknown how the Supers got their powers. Were they born with them, or were their powers given to them by the government? The answer is actually a little bit of both. If we go way back to the beginning of the timeline, we have the Good Dinosaur, which shows us the first humans on Earth. Then fast forward to 10th century Scotland, magic is believed by some, and others such as King Fergus don't believe in magic. The time gap between the Good Dinosaur and Brave is the biggest gap between any two Pixar movies in the timeline. So a lot could have happened. In Brave, it alludes to the world having a more magical past. And this is where Elemental comes in. I believe that these elements that we see in the trailer are actually descendants of humans. That's why they have human-like features. They're essentially humans that have supernatural powers. And that's why in The Incredibles, the supers have powers. I believe that the government did modify their genetics to be used for combat, however. For example, Frozone has the ability to turn water into ice. But a super like Jack-Jack, who hasn't been genetically modified, has powers that are uncontrollable. This is where we get to the really convincing part. Jack-Jack has both a fire and water stage, exactly like Wade and Ember. In The Incredibles, the animators wanted to give Jack-Jack a water phase. However, with the technology back then, it would take too long, so they scrapped the idea. When Incredibles 2 came out, there was a short film released called Auntie Edna. In this short, it confirmed that Jack-Jack does have a water phase. And this looks exactly like Wade from Elemental. If you look at Jack-Jack's fire stage, he's not just on fire, he turns into fire. And some of his other stages include a metal phase and a smoke phase, all of which could be characters in Elemental. So if this is all true, then where is Element City? I actually believe it's underground. And the reason for that is because if you look at this subway, it's not just a normal subway. It doesn't actually go under the city. It runs level with it and runs through a tunnel. And if you look at the architecture, it isn't like a normal city where the buildings go straight up. And who do we know from The Incredibles that lives underground? That's right, the Underminer. I believe the Underminer to be an elemental from Element City. And if you listen to his speech at the end of The Incredibles, he says, "I'm always beneath you, but nothing is beneath me!" Which is true because he's from Element City. And it wouldn't make sense to spend so much money on a drill just to rob a bank. The cost of building this drill most likely outweighs what he would get from robbing the bank. And the reason that Element City is underground is because of how different they are from the rest of society. These elementals would need a society of their own to accommodate their needs. Now, fast forward to Elemental. These elements have been living underground for centuries, and I believe that Wade and Ember will work together to make it back up to the surface. By this time, everyone forgot that they exist, and they are gonna once again reveal themselves to the world. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and while you're at it, why don't you go check out my video about why Gusteau really died. Thanks for watching, and bye!